Hey, trendsetters. I'm here today, another fantastic Monday with the one and only Phil Benn. And we're going to be starting this series of 4 workshops. You're going to find us here on Zoom every Monday for the next consecutive 4 Mondays. And we're going to be learning about some financial strategies with the one and only Phil Benn. Phil is going to be talking to us tonight about thinking and about what home ownership, what did we say, or just strategies in general on how to plan for your financial future. So I'm going to digress and let Phil come forward today.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening to the Trendsetters uh, audience. Um, Thank you, Heidi, for giving me this opportunity to meet with your people and to share
With our
some
people, with our
insight,
people.
our people, yeah, and give them some, share some insights on strategies to create generational wealth. Generational wealth is the key word. It should be the key word in
Okay.
everything that we do, in every decision that we're making. We should be thinking of, how does it benefit the generations to come? And once we approach life that way, I believe that all our decisions making would be more solid, and we would take more time out, when we have to make these decisions. I believe that one of the reasons why we as a people are not having the level of success that we should be having here in America and in the whole Black diaspora is that we stopped thinking about generational wealth. And once we can get back to that, I believe that we're going to be seeing the level of success that we should have in our bloodline. And that's another key word again. What are we doing for our bloodline? Yes, we collectively, we are a people, but individually, we have our own bloodlines to be taken care of and making certain that they are secure. And so, okay, so what's life? We live life, we go to school to get a degree, to get a job, to make some money, buy a house, have children, have a family. So basically, everything is it's the conversation is about life planning. What are we doing from uh, the minute that we have graduated from college to exit when we're
Got a
called?
question. Let me interject right there because you know how I jump in with the questions. Um, I didn't go to college.
You didn't go to
Let's
college.
say, let's say I didn't go to college,
Okay, well, I
right?
think yeah,
So,
well,
like you and I talked a lot about college is important and there's
mm,
no removing it from the scheme of things. But some of us don't go to college and some of us still want to obtain generational wealth, right?
mhm.
So let's back up. Let's back up. Let's start from, 1.A, like we decided, right? So 1.A is even um to choose to ourselves that we have to what is generational wealth or what are financial strategies for
Mhm.
me who doesn't have a degree. We can't limit it to say that, okay, you can start thinking about financial strategies once you have a certain income. I think that we need to understand that we can obtain we can start to process and start to think about financial strategies regardless of what income we have. The concept is that, okay, if you're at level A, you need to improve your finances if certain things you want to acquire, right?
Correct.
So whatever that means, that if that means that, okay, you got your job now and you're working 40 hours and it's only bringing in a level A income, you need to jump in an Uber, or you need to do whatever you need to do to bring in another, you need to look into other business opportunities, like I see a lot of people cooking. I see a lot of people jumping in Uber. I see a lot of people trying to enhance their level A income, right? So I think that we need to, I don't think that you need to start with, okay, life strategies, because we all know life pivots, right? Life throws things at us, and sometimes we can't complete college,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes we get sidetracked by health issues, starting families, different things come into play, right? So it enables us, and college is expensive, so it enables us to continue a path that we expected to be on. However, we still have the same goals. So I think starting with at a place where we can have the conversation of, okay, well, we're level A, and we know we got to do different, have different ideas for what it'll mean. I think that just giving us the tools that'll unlock our ideas without saying this is where, this is where, because everybody's starting at a different place. Everybody's starting at a different place,
I think
right?
that, well, simple. Everyone, the majority of people,
Mm-hmm.
uh, have self-survival instincts, regardless of where you come from. Um, there is that built-in self-survival mechanism that we all use when we look at our circumstances and our situations where we know we have to come up with a strategy, how to get what we need in life. So definitely college is not a must, and college is not the only way to create generational wealth. Um, I met one of my clients. Um, she's a nanny, and she just bought her a house in Cambria Heights for $700,000. That's a nanny.
That's
That
right.
didn't require many people that I've sat with. There's another person that I'm working to help her. She wants to qualify for a house for a mortgage. We just qualified her. She's got 2 degrees. She's nowhere qualified to buy a $700,000 house.
You see, this is point taken. This is this is point taken. This is point
See?
taken. Yes.
So her reality is that she, based on where she's at right now, and even at her age level, right? Um, which we're about the same age because she used to come to all my parties back in the day. Um, she has to buy, or she qualifies to buy a 2 bedroom condo in New Jersey.
Okay.
Whereas the young lady um, just bought her house 3 years ago in Cambria Heights, and you know Cambria Heights, still
Absolutely.
prestigious in Queens, no college degree. And she was, we had a nice chat, and she was giving me, how she grinds, how she's hacking her house, she's renting the basement, made modification upstairs, you understand, and she's, a room here, a room there, rent to other professionals. So yes, a college degree is not an assurance that you're going to be able to afford all the things in life here in America.
Right.
So yes, so those are self-survival strategies that kick in, and where you just look at your circumstances and you look at the playing field, and you say this is my path forward. Some people,
You made a very important point. You said I have to look at my circumstances. I think that
yes.
that's, you know, we talk about this all the time. I think that's coming out of survival mode and
Mm-hmm.
be real with what the future has for you if you stay at this in the rat race, in survival mode, in this, that, and the other. You have to broaden your scope a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and put pen to paper and say, okay, like we did last
Mm-hmm.
week, and said, in 10 years, if I'm going at this rate, what's going to be? How can, and if you're still at a place where you're putting $50 in a week, then you know that that's not going to work for you. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to make adjustments. Like you said, sometimes you have to look beyond the now.
Yeah. And her strategy to amass her money was susu or partners, or every culture has a different
Yeah.
uh, definition,
Mhm.
but that's how she worked collectively with other people, right, to achieve these goals. And she was able to accumulate her money, what I mean, to make her down payment, and of course, and then then another thing that when it comes to self survival, and
Mhm.
it has to keeping your ego in check,
Mm.
because there are some people, they will look down at the nanny's job with a little like, yeah, I'll never do that. You understand?
No, I definitely understand.
Yeah, but they want to go to college, or they want to work for some big prestigious company, you understand? But they look down at these people, but these people are succeeding because they looked at the playing field. They know, okay, I see this. And they're looking at other models, and of course they're looking at a supply demand. There are folks that definitely need a nanny, and culturally, it's
Laborers. There are people that definitely need laborers. We need the cable
right.
man, we need the plumber, we need all of
Ex-
these guys, right? This
mhm,
is a definite supply
mhm,
and demand. We need the electrician, we need the carpenter, we need all of these guys, right? So, or women, we need everyone.
mhm,
We need laborers
correct.
you know,
And
for
that was
us
one
to
thing,
survive.
yeah, that 10 years ago, 10 years ago, there was a research that was done, and it said that carpenters, mechanics, masons, all of these other blue collar skilled workers will be earning more money than white collar jobs, because uh, a lot of men, right, are not as book smart. This is the area where they go into, right? At that era, back in that days, but now you find it in now in this new generation, there's a percentage of men don't want to get their hands dirty. They want to do
And women are jumping in.
but that's why the women are filling in those voids, because
Well,
it's
women are filling in because they're saying, okay, right? There's men that don't want to get their hands dirty.
mm-hmm,
However, they're not getting the jobs either, right?
mm-hmm,
So they're going to school and getting these jobs and not getting employed, right? But
correct,
women now see an opportunity where the salary market
mm-hmm,
is a little bit higher than what we traditionally have went into, right? So that was what front desk jobs and things of that nature.
correct.
And they're like, wait a minute, hold on. I can dig this hole and get how much an hour? And I can get this contract and do what? So
Mm-hmm,
you see them on with their hats, and you see them on with the Velcro vest, and you see them on, and you see them out there, and they doing their thing. So, you know, it begs the question is, like you saying, that we have to remove the stigmas all across the border. We have to be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this things have plagued our communities for far too long, and financial, not knowing finance has been one of them,
Yeah.
right? So let's have this conversation. Let's get off of what we're talking about and let's dig in and let's unpeel this onion one day at a time. So today is day one. Let's get into talking about what you want to talk about. Come on, Phil, let's do this.
Right. Okay, good. So yeah, so we understood okay, the challenges. We understand why, how some people are navigating these challenges to make the money so that they can get, to create a generational wealth, using real estate. We can focus on real estate
Okay.
because a home, it's not really a necessity, but having a home is having a place, especially where you have children. I refer to a home as an incubator. It gives you that place where you have that sense of security, you have that peace of mind, knowing that this is mine. As long as I pay the bills, it's mine. I can do whatever I want to do with it. And my children know it's there. And having a home and raising your child in a home is setting for them an example of what they should be aspiring to as a homeowner, because once you as the parent teaches them the main thing that a home gives you is equity. So some people buy a house because they want a house to have the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the backsplash and the stainless steel. But you buy a house for a 30-year mortgage, right? You have for 30 years, you have this house, right? But what you have done is actually now stabilize your budget when it comes to what it's going to cost every month for you to have a shelter over your head, which is different from having an apartment where every year or every 2 years, the landlord is going to increase the rent.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a mortgage, your monthly housing budget is set for 30 years. So now you could plan on that with little incremental taxes that will increase. But the vast difference between a home and apartment is that you can have a set budget where okay, I'm making $100,000 for the year, and my mortgage is going to cost me 40,000. Then I know I got 60,000. And that's going to be stable for 30 years. But in addition to that, now that you're controlling your housing budget, in 30 years, let's say you bought the house for 500,000, right? In 30 years, that house could be now worth $2 million. So you gain two things. You gain the peace of mind, the comfort, right? The security, right? A place where the children have a stable environment, both more so mentally, right? Because they're safe, right? And they're incubating all of these plans and all of these ideas that they want to incubate while they're in this environment. So it's a win-win when it comes to investing in real estate. And now
Okay.
when you come to home ownership, now it's either now can you afford a one family, a two family, a three family, or a four family. Now you're looking at income.
Okay. So let's stick a pin in it because you went over, you said some things that were very, very important. And like I said, I want to back up and have the conversation. So one of the things that you brought to mind was talking about home ownership. And I know I hear in a lot of low income communities where they're kind of wary about home ownership because they hear about the additional expenses. There's a boiler, there's a roof, there's a this, right? But the fact of the matter is, like you use the word, and I want people to understand what that breaks down to in home ownership. Used a very important word, and that's equity. What is equity? Can you please explain to the audience why? Why, you try to avoid certain overhead costs, and that's what we're going to say, right? Like a house is a house, and it's going to come with some repairs. It's going to need some things down the line, especially based on how old the house is, or what condition the house is in. But let's talk about equity, and then you also touched on the house increases in value in time. So I think that these two concepts, these two philosophies will help people to move more forward towards thinking about having that conversation and thinking about, well, you know what? You raised a very good point where, your kids get to have their own and see them living and not being consistent in the rent, right? So
Mhm.
whatever your mortgage is, that's consistent. That's locked in for 30 years, unless you have different types of mortgages like balloon mortgages or X, Y, and Z mortgages that we'll go in and talk about while you're here and talking about home ownership. But right now I want to talk to you. What is equity?
So equity is the gain from the investment. So,
Break that down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Break that
yeah,
down.
this thing I say to people and it kind of trips them up. And I say, don't buy a house, invest in real estate. So the equity is the difference between how much you paid for the house and how much you net when you sell the house.
Right.
So you paid $500,000 for the house
That's what I want.
and you sell it for 2 million, you've made $1.5 million. That's the equity. So that's when you see what the equity is. So most people, when they are traumatized, when people talk about the expense, they're only seeing the expense, they're not seeing the long game. Because the long game requires that you have to maintain your investment. So those are not expenses, those are maintenance.
Right. It's like a
Because
car.
like
It's
a
like
car.
anything else. It's like every other investment that you make, you
Mhm.
have to maintain it, right?
Correct. Because when it's time to sell, if you didn't maintain it, the buyer is going to demand a deduction because you had mismanaged your property. And depending on how poorly you did, they could ask for 10%, 15%. Now that's when you're going to feel the pain of, you not doing what you're supposed to do when you
Right.
had it. But historically, every real estate in America has increased in value, and it will continue to increase in value because immigration is a factor. No matter how people want to say what they don't want and make it a political issue, everybody wants to come to America, and so we have a housing shortage. We have statistics is saying that we're short of like 2 million houses or something like that. So when you purchase real estate, you guaranteed, based on the law of supply and demand, that your
Supply and demand.
investment will increase in value. So don't be traumatized and put into this state of fear when it comes to it. And regardless of the rate, the interest rates right now, people are still buying. And
So, mhm.
and a lot of professional women are out there. I see them making their moves and they're buying their real estate by themselves. So the fear of whether or not you could afford it That,
Men or women. I
you
think
know,
that,
yeah,
once upon a time, we used to have co-signers and things like that.
yeah, still do.
Now, yeah,
Mhm,
but now people are stepping out and doing things a lot more independently. You see men
mhm.
and women, and the younger generation is definitely out there doing making moves independently. So, I don't want to sexercise this thing. That I
Yeah,
think that, it's
yeah,
fair to say that everyone across the border is making different decisions now.
mhm,
We moved out of the traditional way of two-family home, two income earners into
right.
now merging that one person making two incomes.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying, and
Mhm,
thinking more like that. I want to go back to express the importance of maintenance. So very much like a car, I see a lot of people in our communities buying fancy cars, and they got all these dings all over them, right?
mhm.
So buy what you can afford.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't live above your means. Don't
Mhm.
try to impress the Joneses, because one thing that you did say was that you have equity. And I know that you're going to talk about how we can utilize the equity to purchase another home.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's not like you got to wait 30 years before you can tap into your equity. Your
Mhm.
equity grows in the endurance of, the property ownership. Okay, so you go ahead. I'm going to decrease
There's
you.
plenty of things that people do with the equity in their home. They educate their children with the equity in their home. They pay for their
Send their
college
kids to school, right?
school. That's one of the things they do. They take out money and they start a business. That's they take out money from their house. They can do a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, and they could, use that for whatever reason. But better it be a decision, an investment decision with that money rather than you take equity out of your house to go buy a luxury car.
Right, 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 right.
So yes, using the equity in your house to expand your wealth is definitely one of the ways you can do. There's another things that people, don't understand. When you have, let's say, when you have totally paid off the house, right? You have something called a reverse mortgage, which means now you're a retiree and you're trying to make ends meet, right? Your house
Right.
now can put you now on a budget to help you take care of some of the other expenses that you have. So that is another thing that people don't know, because now that is the house is now part of your retirement strategy,
And
because
we'll talk about that on another time, right? We're going to talk about retirement, and we're going to talk about this. So let's
Mhm,
go back. Now, you were talking about equity and an increase in value and maintaining, and it being a better decision than renting in the longer scheme of things, right?
mhm,
I had a conversation with my older kids about home ownership, right? And sorry about that. And what was, like you said, you got to put pen to paper sometimes, right?
numbers.
So let's say bottom number for an apartment, one bedroom will be $3,000 now in New York, right?
Mhm,
So we got a four-way split, three-way split on that, right? So is first month's rent, first month's for the security fee, then
mhm.
we have the broker
Brokers.
fee,
Mhm.
and then sometimes they put in some frugal fee, which is four ways. So we talking about what, 3,000 times four is $12,000 right there out of, so that $12,000 is not guaranteeing you a lifetime commitment, because if the landlord is telling you, look, I need that apartment next year,
Hmm.
I got my kid is coming back from college and I would like to put them in there. There goes your $12,000. And we're not
And
talking about financing, furnitures and things of that nature, and all the money that you're going to be spending to maintain living in an apartment, right?
paying someone else's mortgage.
That's bills. You still got to pay the light bill. You still got to pay the gas bill. You still got to pay whatever bills, the cable bill, and da 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 da. And you doing again, right? Right. So what works out better?
It
What works out better is look at the long term. Nobody can tell you to pick up and leave, and it's
it's,
yours. And you can do exactly what you just said that the young
Mhm.
lady did. You could rent out your basement. You could rent out parts of your house if you are, and that can be an additional income. And we talked about having additional incomes. That's what we need to the conversation and building generational wealth is
Building generational
different
wealth.
streams.
Yeah. And the thing is that when it comes to home ownership, based upon the person's circumstances and their financial means, they can buy a two-family, which is an investment property where you have rental coming in. So and like I am working with a firefighter, and his plan is he's going to live in his basement and he's going to rent the 2 units.
I know a lot of people that have done it. I know a lot of men that purchased dwellings early in life, maybe in their 30s,
Hmm.
and lived in the basement and rented out the two levels and were just as content. And now they have multiple homes,
Correct. That's
you
a
know.
strategy. That's a strategy, and that
That's a
didn't
strong,
require anyone going to college.
right, right.
So it's just
Just having good credit sometimes really helps,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
that's it.
So we're gonna have that conversation also. You gotta have good credit. You can't mess up your credit on a $500 credit card that you got from Capital One and
Hmm.
go down to a 500 credit score because you own $500, but that's another that's a conversation.
The banking system that holds everyone hostage.
But we're not taught, so a lot of kids are offered credit cards straight out of school, right? So you see, I know that my kids, once they became 18, they started getting those envelopes, started flying in. You're qualified, you're qualified, you're qualified. And I used to take them and rip them and take them and rip them.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
qualified for nothing. And they're like, Ma, and I was like, no, you could
they,
have one credit card and pay that one off on time and don't go past, but we got to have these conversations so that they can understand what credit is about and what managing their finances is. But if nobody tells you, then how are you going to know?
and that's a conversation that parents need to have with their children, from early about
But
credit.
if I've never had the conversation with anyone before,
Mm,
if I live in a system where everyone just has bad credit, and that that's our community's hiccup, right?
mm,
Everyone has, you can talk to 10 people and 9 out of 10 people have bad credit in our community. And that's because we haven't had these type of conversations, right?
right,
So
you're
this
right.
is why we said we were going to have these conversations. So continue talking to me about home ownership.
Yeah, well, so and one of the things about on the people need to understand when it comes to home ownership is
Mhm.
in the financing of the home. Um, in Obama's administration after the crash, he made it mandatory that the loan officers qualify everyone properly, meaning that their debt to income ratio, right? Those are factors. You got to have a job during that era, pre-pandemic, if you had a heartbeat, they were giving you a mortgage. So now you have to be properly qualified. And when we talk about debt to income ratio and all of these other terminologies, when you get a pre-approval letter,
Mhm.
that amount of money that you are qualified to go shop with
Mhm.
makes certain that makes you the type of buyer that will not be house rich and be compromised financially. So
Mhm.
whatever you can shop with, that's it. You can
Mhm.
be able to live comfortably while paying the mortgage. So don't have the fear of that, because the law protects you, the buyer, that mortgage, that pre-approval letter is protecting you. The pre-approval letter protects you from going into any crisis.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that buyers need to know. Regular people need to know that. So
Okay. So I got a pre-approval for 500K, right? Based
correct,
on my income.
correct. And your debt.
Okay. So I'm shopping for a house for 500K. That's what
Correct.
I'm assuming, right?
That's
Nothing
it.
over,
Nothing over.
nothing over.
Nothing
Because
over.
if I go over that 500K, that's telling me danger.
Well, unless somebody is giving you money to buy a $600,000 house and is giving you $100,000, that's the only house you're going to get, that $600,000 house. But outside of that, you still, you have your down payment and your closing costs that you have to come up with. But
And
yes, you have to keep within your budget. The pre-approval letter keeps you within a budget.
okay, so you mentioned two words, down payment and closing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about, okay, so now I got 500 in my pre-approval letter. That was pre-approved for $500,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's a down payment?
Well, depending on the type of loan that you qualified for, there's the first-time home buyer. They got a FHA, 3.5% down payment. You got conventional, which is 5% down payment minimum. Those are the two basics.
Okay. Can you break that down for me? What's the
Well,
FHA?
the FHA, 3 times 15. If the house is half a million, you need $18,000 down payment, 3.5%.
3.5 and conventional at 5%.
Right, so yeah, 5%, that'd be 25,000.
And why do we have these type of what you said down payments? And that
Yeah,
doesn't include.
because there's two different types. Convention, there's the FHA, which is more like secured by the government. Both of them are secured by the government, but based on the first time,
Mhm.
the you could even get a 3% down payment based on the different type of financing. So you
That's
can go
great.
as low as 3%, but normally it's 3.5% FHA.
Wow.
And then
And what's a closing? What's closing cost?
closing costs could be 4%.
Why is it different expenses?
Why is it so expensive? Well, you got
Why is different expenses? Why is it that I have a down payment and then a closing cost? So can you explain what the difference is? So we're talking about a house for 500,000,
Mhm,
right? And I got to make a down payment to secure this house, right? To say that
mhm,
I want to take this house off of the market. This is what this down payment is for, right?
right.
Right? So nobody else will come. The house is in considerations, and I put my down payment on this house, right? And then what's closing?
Right, the
Closing,
down payment, right. So
right. And then the closing
you
is
have,
after the contracts and everything has gone through with the bank, then that's when we seal
right,
the deal with my closing
right.
costs.
So, right,
Okay, so
exactly.
I just wanted everybody to understand what, what these things are.
Correct. Right, in a nutshell.
Mhm.
Right. That takes care of attorney fees, title search, things like that. That's inside of the closing costs. And yes, you whatever the differences you have to bring to the closing, right, you have those different expenses to cover in your closing costs. And your attorney would tell you basically how much it is that you need to bring
Mhm.
at the closing, to so that the deal could be finalized.
And that usually, again, is usually a 4% of,
Yeah, it all depends. And in the closing, depending on sometimes you can get a seller's concession,
which is,
which means the seller can help cover some of the costs of the closing. So that you can request the seller's concession. It's right. Well, when you're dealing with, average, people definitely, request the seller if they could to pay part of your closing costs so you can keep cash because it's a new house and you're in and just in case something happens you have cash. So or rather than asking, you see the seller paying for your closing costs depends on the market. So different if it's a buyer's market, if it's a seller's market, right?
and what's that?
So then,
What's that? What's the difference between that? What's a buyer's market?
well, a buyer's market is when there is too much inventory
Mm. So there's too many houses for
on the
sale
market, right? And they're just sitting there,
and they're just sitting there.
right?
We're
So
not there now.
they're not there now.
We're
So
not there. We are
I
not there
love
now,
that.
right? Too many houses and they're
I
just
love,
sitting there, right?
yeah,
And then you say seller's market.
right. So so we're in the seller's market.
We're in the seller's market. There's not
So
enough homes that people want to facilitate, right? What you said, you gave the number of 2 million homes or something like that.
that when they talk about homes that we need to satisfy America.
The supply and demand.
It's right. So that's what and those are projections into the future too, because remember, families are being formed, and not even families not being formed. Once people reach a certain financial means, they want their own.
Right. Or
Right.
they
So
should want their own. They should want their own,
right.
right?
And it doesn't have to be a standalone house because it could be, you have condo, you have co-op, but housing in general, units.
Housing in general, right?
Yeah. So that's that's the shortage we're talking about.
And a shortage, one of the things that we have to start talking about also is siblings could buy a home. Siblings could buy, and pool together and get
Right.
homes. Once children become old enough, these are conversations that families can start having as well.
But these are conversations that families should be thinking about because everybody know their financial means, right? And they know
Mhm,
that they look at you project into the future where you are at, and at some point in time, your kids are going to be wanting some place to go, some
mhm,
place to have their own, and you know, people when they reach a certain age and they want to live a certain lifestyle, they know they can't be at home with mom and live that kind of lifestyle. So that's why everybody rushes out to have their own space. So no parents could look down at them. But the whole reality is that now based on how
Yeah, but if I got three kids that's paying
actually
$3,000 a month in mortgage at three different places, we're talking about $9,000, $10,000 that could have been that
coming
they could have purchase their own home, pool together, purchase their own home, and they don't have to worry about you know, and this is what we're talking about, generational wealth. They don't have
Correct.
to worry about having to move increments, this, that, the other, and things that you would have to think about in rental
Common
property.
sense.
Well,
Common.
common sense is not so common. I told you stop saying it. We got to remove that. Common sense is not common. If I never had the conversation before, how is it common?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But we have to teach it. We
Right.
have to.
So it's not common. I'm not, we
You know,
got to remove that.
I think
If
that
I'm teaching it to you, if you're growing up and if you're growing up in a home and we're having this conversation, then it's common sense. Why would you move?
it's at home.
Why would you move into a rental space versus moving into your own home? But if
Mhm.
all I seen was generation after generation after generation, when they move out, move into an apartment, and there was never any conversation about home
Mhm.
ownership, then how would I even consider that? Then my goal is to move out and move into an apartment, right?
Well, one of those things that I've always thought when in the libraries
Mhm.
is intergenerational. This is a way how America was won, right? By grandma all the way down to the grandchildren, all of them under one roof.
See, that's
That
a
was,
different conversation though,
but
because
now,
I'm going to tell you something, Phil. America has become so un-Americanized
hmm
that people don't even understand the American dream anymore. It's been so distorted
I agree.
that you don't even know what the American dream is anymore. This is not a conversation that we have about goals
hmm
to attain in America, which one of them, the main thing was home ownership.
hmm
You understand what I'm saying? So it kind of got distorted. It got distorted with go to college. It got distorted with other things that distracted from goals, American goals.
hmm
You
Long-term
understand
goal.
what I'm saying? This is the reason why immigrants and migrants can come to America and utilize opportunities that perhaps Americans aren't because
Their culture.
of this distortion in what the American dream is or what American culture is.
American
Again,
culture.
it's been washed down throughout the generations,
Mhm.
especially in our Black and brown communities.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? We don't have an understanding about what does that mean. You know, everybody was against Trump at one point when he said make America great again, but I think that he just wanted to piggyback on the ideology of America as a businessman, where America was at one point in time. And that was home ownership. That was utilizing the resources that we have in America to enhance the economic growth of America. So this is a conversation, one of those conversations that
Right.
is not had,
Intergenerational housing.
is not had.
Intergenerational housing. It's key right now because you can buy, if you're looking at New York, in the five boroughs where a one family is 6 to 700,000 and a four family is 12, 1.2, 1.3 million, it only makes sense for a family to pool their money together and get the four family
And get the
that
four
has the
family.
houses that you can modify and do your gym, do this, do that, do everything with it. And you have a big long carport for all of the cars. So it only makes sense for the family to put aside all of their egos and their grievances and stuff like that and invest because when you move out,
Ego. It's ego.
yeah, when
It's
you move out,
ego.
you're living under a structure and you're sharing with complete strangers. Why can't you live under a structure and share with your own bloodline?
Right. We got to get out of the poverty mindset of when we're making a little bit more that we go and buy a tangible item,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we got to get out of the ego thing and understand that it's more important to make investments when
Yeah.
we have the excess versus buying something where other people can see that has some value. You have to understand, as an individual, that the investment, the long-term goal is the
Yes.
objective, right?
Absolutely.
So, like we were saying, we see a lot of people that have a little excess and they'll go above. So let's take the car, for instance. You get the pre-approval for $30,000 and
Mm-hmm.
you go out there and buy $100,000 car.
With no carport. You have no carport. Because basically, the way how the American vision is, the car and the carport is just to crown the house.
Okay, so I get my income tax refund and it could be $5,000, let's say, and I go on vacation
With all of it.
with all of it. And I return back
So,
to my apartment
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So these are the
when I can save my income tax for a couple of years. Let's say 3, 4 years, my income tax returns if I'm getting 5K, and that'll be 20,000, right?
you remember that term during the pandemic? Staycation. Do you remember that term? During the pandemic, after the pandemic, people were able to purchase more real estate because it did not travel for 2 years. And they saved up their income tax return and all of the money that they were going to spend on a vacation. And after when it's time for them to go shopping, they were able to buy more house, have a bigger down payment on their house.
And purchase properties for people to come and stay. You remember B&Bs went so high up. Everybody had a B&B. They're renting out homes. They're renting out their spaces now, and people were
Mhm.
really getting the ideology of generational wealth. Like, whoa, we can make more money. We can make money. Generational wealth is the ideology of making your money make money for you.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
You
And
understand what I'm saying? So if I have $5 and I'm getting $2 on my five,
you're doing well.
you're doing well. So this is this is the reason why we having these kind of conversations, right? So we spoke last week about stop buying, fast food as frequently, regardless of what, get in front of that stove, YouTube those videos and cook,
So
and this is something that you can do as a couple.
yeah,
This is the activity that you can do as a couple that can bring you closer, or as you suggested, you could do with your kids, or your kids could do for you.
hmm yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? It will help. It will help with the little pennies. Each penny is an additional
hmm
penny
Yep.
toward tomorrow.
Yeah, we had for those that were, if they look for the previous video, we show the numbers on the
Right,
finance calculator, what
right.
$50 can do if you just put aside $50 every month, and which is
And that encourages people once they get to a 6 months period at $50 and they see how much it is, they're like, wait a minute, I could put 75 or I could put 100. If you stop going here, then it's a whole different conversation, right? If we stop taking Uber, now it moved from not buying food every so often to stop taking Ubers every so often. And then you start making certain cuts and understand that, this is how it is. Look, the reality is what you said. Here we have a nanny, right?
Mhm.
That's living by the bare means.
Mm-hmm.
But she has a goal. And I think that one thing that I do say to you is, or I do say in general, is a man without a plan has nowhere to stand.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my kids this all the time, and I'm figuratively speaking. I'm not talking on a sexual sense. I'm talking figuratively speaking, right?
Right.
And a man without a plan, a human being
Mm-hmm.
without any goals, without any plans, where are we going?
Yeah,
You,
we have a
you
lot.
understand what I'm saying? So it just takes little increments, like you said.
Mhm.
Let's stop eating once in a while. Let's stop taking those Ubers once in a while. Let's think differently, and discipline. Discipline is
Self-control.
key.
Self-control.
Discipline is key. America makes you really lackadaisical when it comes down to discipline. If I could wake up 15 minutes later and jump in an Uber, you get where I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? But it's discipline. You know that you focused in and you locked in on, saving your finances for this goal. You know that even when you're children, we said that we have children 13, 14 years old, they get their first jobs. You're not letting them blow everything on back to school clothes. You got to put in their minds, what are they saving for? What is the end game? How do you want this money to be allocated in the next couple of years?
Yeah. It's life planning. When we talk about generational wealth, it's life planning. It's not going to happen without, we sitting down and planning out our life as how we would love it to be, regardless of what can happen, but we still have to plan it out. We've got to have these plans laid out. And like you said, if the parent didn't get guidance from their parent, then there's nothing for them to pass on to their children. And so we have to say, well, there are some generations are lost, but then again, as we are here today,
Right. I was just
having
about to say they're not lost because we giving them some directions. We helping them get on
right,
track, right?
yeah, we hope that they take the time out and listen to our conversation, because we're not looking to beat anyone over the head with any of the information. We just want them to reason this out, what we are sharing with them, that it only makes sense. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game.
It's a
It's the same
numbers game.
thing.
America is a
You wanna,
numbers game.
yeah, you want to buy a designer bag. You're going to be saving up that money for that designer bag. And then, but here's what, that designer bag is going to go out of style. And then what? Then here comes another
And
style.
then it
And then
gets
what?
it gets rot, right? The leather rots
Right. And it's
because it's in the
it,
closet.
it's dated. It's just like, you went to a party, if you're a party person, and you don't want to wear that dress for maybe another year, because you don't want somebody to see you wearing that outfit. So these are things that we get tied up in, that keeps us spending money that we don't need.
To
You
spend.
know, I
We don't need to spend.
Yeah. So yeah, these are the conversations that, like we said last week, that needs to step on people's corns.
We
Maybe
don't
it
need so
gets,
much clothes.
yeah, absolutely.
We don't need so much clothes. I remember going away earlier part of this week, this year, and I came back so liberated because I remember, Phil, how I used to dress. I stuck my hand in my suitcase and whatever in the zip. I didn't even open it. In
Mm,
the zip, whatever shirt I pulled out, that's what I wore. Stuck it back in, whatever pants. And I was gone, and I was so free of having to match the shirt with the pants. Till even it was somebody turned to me and said, "Boy, you really at home?" Like, you know,
mm. You're on
I must
vacation.
have had on an orange shirt and a green shoe and a this, that, and the other. And now I'm just like, look, whatever I put, whatever I got on, whatever I throw it on, however I feel, it liberated me that I don't need all of that, and like I said, it's me, you know, Phil, you know, it liberated me. I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less. How many times people say they saw me in the same shirt. It'll be on a rotation.
Mhm.
You understand? It'll be on a rotation.
I met this young lady. She has an exhibit at Billie Holiday Theater at Restoration
Right.
on natural hair,
Mhm.
and she is meeting with an uh, she met with a doctor. She met with a and she's meeting with a scientist who is going to run the numbers on the amount of money that Black people are spending on here. Because as I think maybe that would be one of those conversations that you need to have with this brilliant woman from Suriname
Okay.
and and
We'll exchange information afterwards.
need to have a conversation with her. I mean, she's done her research and you when you go to Billie Holiday Theater, and she has all of the photos of all of the different hairstyles and stuff like that, natural hair,
Yes.
but one of the things that she when she was pointing out the psychological and the societal pressure on Black people having to conform to the Europeans dictating how we supposed to wear our hair and the
Mhm.
amount of money that we spend just trying to conform to what the Europeans consider standards and what has been in the past less so now, right? But that has been a cost to us that has impacted the type of money that
Everything is the course. Everything that we have sat down and spoken about that has affected and really crushed our Black and Brown communities has come at a cost to us and has benefited the Europeans. You
Mhm,
know, we don't make name brands and we don't support brands that are made by us. Like Fubu
mhm,
once said, for us, by us. We didn't
mhm,
support that. That's how come that particular brand, you know, didn't make it as successful as, it could have been. And
mhm.
brands that we have, we don't support one another. We
Correct.
outsource our money, right?
Yeah. That's a
We
whole different
outsource this
conversation.
by the billions.
That's a whole different conversation.
But we're talking about generational wealth and we're
Yeah.
talking about how we can keep money, circulating in our Black and Brown communities. So that's
Correct.
not even another conversation.
Mhm.
That is the conversation. And
Mhm.
that's how it starts. If we can really respect ourselves and remove out of traditional values and things that have been instilled in us, stereotypes, whatever it is, and really place a value back into our Black and Brown communities, we will understand how we can then refocus and recalibrate how we obtain how to obtain. The conversation will be validated. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. We need a playbook, so to speak, for
And
our.
we trying, even in conversation, before a playbook is, we have to implement certain ideas,
Mm,
right? This is what the thing was, so we sat down and we spoke about so many different things. What is finances? What are down payments? What are closing? We came up with so many different, we had such a great conversation, Phil, today about home ownership and
very.
just, the difference in renting versus home ownership. And I think that that was the playing ground that we needed to start at for people to understand that, you know, hey boo, you paying $3,000 a month. for somebody else's property, you can be paying $3,000 a month for your
Mhm.
own, right? And investing in ourselves. It's always about the long term.
Yeah, and most important, I want people to like kind of be able to have a little bit of fluidity in when you realize that, okay, I'm at this $3,000 monthly rental, and maybe there might be another zip code where this housing budget can be spent because yes, oh, Bed-Stuy is nice, Park Slope is cool, but your pre-approval letter is only for X amount of dollars. And you might have to get up and go to another, you might have to go to the closest area that is closer to where your job is, which is 2.5 hours, and go there. So you might have to relocate from Brooklyn so that
And
you could be able now to start investing in real estate and
and
grow
and it's
yourself
temporary.
out.
What the conversation that people have to understand, I know we say 30-year mortgage, you locked in, but again, you can start at 30 years and the next 10 years you would have built enough equity to maybe purchase another home. So
Mm-hmm.
this is something, these are conversations that we have to be repetitious on, and we have to build the entire picture. So maybe we have to look outside of, and this is what a lot of people do. They start in New York. Oh, New York, New York, New York is one,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but then you start thinking, yeah, Jersey may have some cheaper real estate, or, like you said, other area zip codes
Mm-hmm.
have moderately lower real estate, not, and it's the first time,
The first
it's
time.
it's the
Yeah.
first time. You
Not
don't
forever.
have to stay there forever.
Yeah.
You're not there. It's an investment. You're not there to stay forever, you know? And this is people mindset, that my home generation. So that's it. That's it. I'm gonna live there. I'm gonna die there. That's it. No,
Yeah.
you can
That
move.
happens.
You can move. You can get more.
Yeah.
You can get more as you go along. Every 10 years, you could buy a house if you're doing it correctly.
Yeah. Mhm.
Or your kids could have their own house if you do it correctly. If
Correct. Right.
and this is the conversation that we need to have.
Absolutely.
Although it's a, what you call it, seller's market, it's still enough navigating room for us if we start doing things collaboratively
Yep.
and, smarter.
Yep. Intergenerational. That's the key. Intergenerational. Buy as much real estate as you could have. It's your house and you can divide it up.
I know people are even going out of state and purchasing land.
Hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And then deciding from there, what to do as long as you have the property, and these are the conversations. These are definitely the conversations that we need to start having, with our children, with our loved ones, and plans, you know. We have to have a plan.
Yeah.
And I think that this is where it's gone wrong, you know, and understanding that plans change,
Yeah.
because we started with college. Not everybody goes to college. Not saying that is right or wrong, but it's a fact. Some people start and they don't continue
Yep.
for various reasons. You understand what I'm saying? So outside of the college dream, how are you gonna do it?
Hmm.
I would love to say that all my kids are going to be doctors and lawyers and very high prestigious jobs, but who knows what tomorrow holds, right? They could start and then they could pivot. So what are we going to do then? So this is the planning that's leading to adulthood, is the conversations that we need to start to have. And we need to have these conversations a lot so that people can understand
Hmm.
that they have to plan. You can't, if there's no plan, then how are you going to obtain generational wealth? How would that even be an idea? What does that mean? What does that mean for us as a family unit? What does that mean for us as a couple? What does that mean for me as an individual? What does generational wealth mean? What does home ownership mean? And the steps that'll take to get me there. So, first thing is make sure that you got good credit, right? So you and I will talk about what credit is and how it
Absolutely.
plays in the long scheme of things,
Mhm.
right? And we'll start talking about all these saving terms like trust and bonds and all these insurances and, IRAs and Robs. Like, what the, you know, a lot of people are hearing a lot of new language because of social media,
Yeah, and I believe that that time when we get over to there, um, I think there'll be those that
ready?
are following. They'll be definitely be ready for that
Yeah,
conversation.
we're gonna build, we're gonna build, we're gonna build. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm excited. I like the way that this is, really spoon feeding our communities into understanding that we have to make a change if we need to make a change. So we have to make a change because we need to make a change.
I agree. We are moving along,
Moving along.
planned, bringing them the information, and definitely, folks, please, share. Uh,
Like, follow, share, and Phil, where can they find you again?
um, Phillip Benn at Yahoo.
Philip,
Uh,
PhillipBenn at yahoo.com. And he's also on Facebook, Phil Ben on
Phil Benn.
Facebook.
Hmm.
Yeah, so if you want to reach out or DM him, he's on Facebook. And you can reach out to him and ask him really what questions that you have.
Yep, and we'll come back here and we'll share it.
And we'll come back and we'll share it and we'll have the discussion.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, Phil. Thanks a lot for your time. I know we went over a little bit, but I think that we did a pretty good job of, just breaking the skin.
Yes, yes. I think people are going to go away with a lot of aha moments and things to really ponder on.
Ponder, ponder, right?
Yep.
So we doing it, Phil. We doing it. We doing it. We doing it. That's what trendsetters do.
Yes, indeed.
That's what trendsetters do. It was great seeing you. Thanks a lot, Phil, for engaging our audience, engaging our communities, and we look forward to what you got coming up next. I know that you said you got some guest speakers coming on, so I'm looking forward to it. I got my pen, I got my paper, and
Hmm.
I got my mouth.
Yeah, you got some power people to
Yes,
bring to
I love
share
it. I love
information.
it. Thanks a lot, Phil. I'll
All right.
talk to you next week.
Indeed. Thank you.